What actually makes a system truly great? I mean, whether we're talking about a massive multinational company, a growing state, or even an entire nation, the underlying mechanics of success and failure are actually remarkably similar. So in today's explainer, we're going to unpack a super fascinating framework. It basically breaks down the DNA of a thriving organization into three distinct, measurable pillars. Let's get right into it. The absolutely crucial point we're exploring today stems from this one foundational rule from our source material. A good system is one that constantly raises standards. Really think about that for a second. A system isn't just some static piece of architecture you build once and forget about. No, it's a living, breathing entity, and it's completely defined by a relentless, continuous elevation of its own internal benchmarks. Basically, if a system isn't raising its standards, it's not just standing still, it's actively degrading. And honestly, this perfectly illustrates the ultimate stakes of this whole blueprint. Imagine a giant structure held up by multiple pillars. If all the disciplines are pushing upward together, well, the whole foundation rises. But if just one part fails to raise its standards, if literally even one pillar cracks, what happens? The entire system just halts. It simply cannot deliver to higher levels. So, you could have world-class performance in one area, but if there's a weak link somewhere else, your entire upward trajectory is totally capped. No way around it.
All right, let's look at Pillar 1, Advancing Science.
To understand how to prevent that system collapse we just talked about, we've got to break down the specific parts. Science acts as the real engine of technological and material evolution. And the source outlines 4 distinct levels of scientific evolution that any system has to progress through. Level 1 is super foundational. It's mining and refining, basically securing raw materials. But you can't just stop at refining, right? You have to raise the standard to level 2, which is manufacturing, taking those refined materials and making usable goods out of them. Then you elevate again to level 3, machinery making. Now you aren't just making the goods, you're creating the complex tools and automated systems that make the goods. And finally, this all culminates in level 4, new scientific knowledge and discovery. It's an evolutionary journey of human ingenuity. You're moving sequentially from literally digging in the dirt all the way to the absolute frontier of pure innovation.
But hey, here's the catch. We have the science figured out, and we can map out that technological progress beautifully. But what about the people? Because, let's face it, these disciplines do not operate in a vacuum. A system could have incredible machinery and mind-blowing manufacturing, but if it completely ignores its human element, that whole structure will eventually buckle.
That brings us to Pillar 2, social evolution. This is where the focus shifts entirely to how a system actually nurtures, protects, and elevates its human connections. Society itself has to level up step by step. Level 1 is the absolute baseline here, equality. Just treating people fairly under the rules of the system. But equality alone isn't the ceiling. You have to raise the standard to level 2, mutual respect and trust. This is where a culture actually begins to bond. Then comes level 3, inclusiveness. This ensures that absolutely every voice and talent is actively brought into the folds to contribute. And finally, the highest standard, level 4, rejuvenation. This is the ultimate goal for the social pillar. We're talking about a society or maybe a company culture so incredibly healthy, trusting, and inclusive that it constantly renews and energizes itself, rather than just burning its people out.
So, we've got the engine of science pushing boundaries, and the culture of social evolution keeping people united and rejuvenated. But how does a system actually support all of this? I mean, how do you prevent these incredible social and scientific gains from simply collapsing into pure chaos?
Well, that requires Pillar 3, elevating governance.
Governance is the rigid backbone of the whole operation. It's the structural foundation that holds the science and the social progress together, giving them a safe space to actually function. And just like the others, a good system must ruthlessly raise its governance standards. Level 1 starts with education. You absolutely have to train minds. Level 2 is security. You've got to create a stable, safe environment where those educated minds can work without fear. Level 3 raises the bar to healthcare, ensuring the long-term physical well-being and vitality of the population. And finally, the absolute pinnacle, Level 4, the creation of a flourishing ecosystem. This means governance has evolved way past just putting out daily fires. It's actively engineered an environment where everything, business, nature, and the community, all thrive completely symbiotically.
So let's bring it all together. Synthesis, the unstoppable system. We've looked at the 3 pillars individually, but when we bring all 3 of these disciplines, science, social, and governance, together at the exact same time, a profound interdependency emerges. It's like a giant puzzle. You cannot have level 4 science, like groundbreaking new scientific discovery, if you're stuck at level 1 governance, lacking the basic security and education to protect and train your scientists. And you can't achieve level 4 social rejuvenation if your science is permanently stuck at basic level 1 mining. The progression has to be horizontal. They absolutely must march ahead together, step by step, continuously lifting each other up.
And honestly, this is exactly why this blueprint matters so much for anyone studying organizational design or statecraft. When a company, a state, or a nation gets these together, when they perfectly align their scientific ambition, their social culture, and their government structures to constantly raise standards, they don't just succeed. The source material is completely definitive on this. They become a good system, they march ahead, and they become, well, completely unstoppable. I want to leave you with this final thought to really spark your curiosity today. Take a moment and evaluate the systems you interact with every single day. Look at your own company, your local community, or even your nation as a whole. Which of these 3 pillars, science, social, or governance, is failing to raise its standards today? Because wherever that weakest link is hiding, that is exactly where your system's unstoppable potential is currently being held back. Thanks so much for joining me for this explainer. Keep questioning the systems around you, and I'll see you next time.